Welcome once again to We Rise podcast, brought to you by the Urban Green Miami. I'm excited about today's conversation. I've had a lot of brand new experiences over the last few days, all related to being around once again my guest this evening, Mother Chambers. About a week ago, there was a grand celebration of her 100th birthday, 100 birthday. I've been around 82 years. I've been fortunate to do a lot of exciting things in those 82 years. Around queens and kings, around governors, and politicians of all types, been around entertainers, from Sammy Davis Jr., Patti LaBelle, James Brown, you name it. I've had quite a unique set of experiences these 82 years. So I'm used to being around great, famous people. But every time I'm with Mother Chambers, I always have a new experience. At her birthday celebration a couple of weeks, I pointed out the fact that there's nothing like being with her, because she epitomizes everything that we preach here at the Urban Green Miami. We make no excuses. She's made no excuses about her life. We blame nobody. She blames nobody about her circumstances. We believe that we can do whatever we want to do in spite of things that we don't control, and she has demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt that she has done that. So, Mother Chambers, welcome.
Welcome.
Good to be with you. Always good to be with you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to start back in 1922 when you were born. 1922, you were born 100 years ago, when the country was in a turmoil, industrialization, urbanization, everything was going crazy. You came to this world. Let's talk about the early days of your life.
The early day, Mr. Fair, was, as I remember, was when I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Okay.
The time before then it was void. It passed from me because it was horrible times. We came up in a time when my mother had 9 children, and she had to work to take care of those children. And I can say they were not well taken care of because she couldn't make the money to take care of the children. She didn't have a husband to take care of her.
And no government check.
Pardon?
No government check. She had no government check also.
She don't own nothing like that. Oh, we would have survived if we'd have had. We would have survived if we'd have had help like we have over here. We really would have survived. But my mother had no help. She had to work. I remember 50 cents was high money for her. And she worked sick. And I remember when she used to bring the white people's clothes home, she used to boil them in a pot. She had a big iron pot out in the yard, and she put a fire on it and put the water in it and put the clothes in it. She put water in the pot to whiten the clothes. I remember that. I remember that we had not water like we have now. We had to pump our water with a pump. That's what we did. I remember we didn't have food to eat. We was hungry most of the time. And when my brother got old enough, he saw times was so hard, He went to work at a place called Rookerfield Air Base in Alabama. And he gave my mother money to buy a house. And we would beg our mother with tears in our eyes, we'd be hungry. She said, I'm not breaking this money for the house. He gave her the money to buy a house. She had to keep that money and buy the house. He was doing that to put us in a house because we was having such a hard time. I remember my mother used to work in kitchens, white people's kitchens, and she used to bring the leftover food home to us, and we'd be so glad to get it. I remember that it was times when my mother heard somebody told her that a fox had ran in the road and a car had killed it. And my mother took her axe and went down to the road and chopped the thigh off that fox and brought it back and skinned that fox and cooked it. And we had a decent meal that time. I remember that. I remember it was times we were so hungry and we saw the lady next door had chickens and she had a chicken on the roof, hatching eggs. But we was a little older than I was when I went to school. We was probably around about 17 or 18 and still was hungry. We didn't have no job. And so a chicken came in the yard and one of my friends had a daddy and he had planted corn in his garden. And she got this corn and we got the chicken and brought it over in the yard. And she dropped a pedal of corn and back it up and she put on a pot of hot water. And she backed up in the house with the chicken. When the chicken followed her in the house, she jumped down and grabbed the chicken and wrung her neck and threw her in that pot of hot water. And we had a decent meal then. I tell you, we was hungry on many days. I cried on many days because I didn't have food and my mother wasn't able to get it. We used to pick up pennies. People used to give us pennies and we go on the street, go to the store and buy a penny this and a penny that and was glad to get it. But I tell you, we didn't have the security they have now. I hear over the television where women saying men rape them and men just touch them or look at them like they like them and they get big piles of money for that. We didn't have no kind of security. What the white man do, that's what the white man do. You couldn't open your mouth about it. You better not say nothing. And if they want your daddy or your brother that has whistled at a white woman, they would knock your door down if they happen to come in there and get them in front of you and take them out and hang them on a tree.
You
They
saw
would
that?
do it. Hang them on the tree.
Really?
Yes, sir. Hang them on the tree. Kill them. You didn't have no kind of security. No kind. No, who you gonna tell? Ain't nobody to tell. Everybody was in the same thing and we was there. So my mother got sick from working so much. And that's why one reason I left Alabama and came up here because I was coming with some friends and they came up here and a lot of nights I didn't have nowhere to stay, but I stayed here rather than go back home because it was turmoil at my hometown. Segregation, it was terrible. It was terrible. I went through a lot of things in my lifetime. Like I say, I went through some stuff, but thank God I'm able to look up and thank God that I'm not in the best of health, but I'm able to live alone, and I'm able to eat, take care of myself, and God gave me a added family that are nice to me. And you know something, I left home when I forget about how young I was when I left home, but you couldn't get me to go back there. And my mother was there, and I loved my mother, and my mother died in Alabama. And the doctor I was working for sent me there on a plane to my mother's funeral. But it was so bad that I didn't want to go back home.
So you came to Florida?
I came to Florida.
Okay. What did you find different in Florida?
Oh, I found a
In
man.
Alabama.
It wasn't easy when I come here because, like I said, in school you obeyed the teacher. You better obey. And
In Alabama.
In Alabama, you better obey the teacher, and she would whip you, and you would get a second whipping when your mother found out you'd been, and it wasn't, yeah.
Parents beat children back in your day?
They beat them.
If they did something bad in school?
Yes, sir. They beat them. They beat them. They beat them. I'm thinking if I had somebody in Alabama right now, I could call them and ask them, Yeah.
You keep saying beat them. So it wasn't no spanking. It was a beating.
They beat them. They beat their head. And they beat them with rulers. Because I didn't get one, but I got in fights down there. But I like to say we didn't have what we had for supper. That's what we had to have for lunch. One day we had some peas. My mother had cooked some black-eyed peas, and we had some left over. So I took the peas to school, and it started raining. And we, like all children, would run into school. It was raining, so and I dropped my lunch, and somebody picked up the lunch and put it in the garbage. And I don't know if somebody saw it or not, but somebody brought the lunch. Somebody brought the lunch to the teacher, and she said, held it up, said, "Whose lunch is this?" I wouldn't say a word. And soon as she got through it, and she said, "Well, nobody won't own it," she went and threw it back in the garbage. And soon as school was out, I went and got my lunch. I went and got it out the garbage because I know how things was when I go home. I went and got my lunch and I ate my lunch. I didn't own it in school. But, it was so hard down there. And when it was taken advantage of, I was one of them that was tempted with. It was just hard. I didn't want to go back down there. And it wasn't the best of here, but it was better than down there. Because in Miami, you wouldn't believe, I spent many nights on the street until time to go to the bus station. And that's where I would spend the night, in the bus station all night long. Until a lady saw me one day and she said, "My husband go to work at night and you can come and sit up at my house. Time for him to come home." She knew I didn't have nowhere to sleep. I didn't have no money or nothing. And so I went and sat in her house, and that they never know that I was staying in his house. I didn't go to bed. I just sit on the floor and have my hand on my knees and go to sleep.
White lady or black lady?
She was a white lady. She was a black lady. She had a husband that was working, and she knew I didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't have no money. And the reason it happened like that, because I wasn't a woman that just give myself over to the public to make a living. I didn't do that.
So you had pride and principles going through all of this?
I tell you, I suffered. I had a lot of pride.
So in spite of those circumstances, you maintain your dignity. You say, I am somebody, you'll be somebody.
I stood a lot, and I tell you, people had to talk to me here in Miami because I had a lot of pride.
Where did you get it from? I mean, given those circumstances, you should be like everybody else. Should have given in and said, these white folks won't let us be anything, so the only way I can be something is be what they want me to be. Why were you so strong?
I don't know, because like you said, I had pride, and people here have to beg me. All my friends talk to me, say, you don't give away everything you have. And when people give you don't have to turn around and give them. But I don't know where, the Bible said sins pass from one generation to another. And that must have come from some of my distant generation. Because my mother, I had a wonderful mother, but she worked hard. I cried her many days. And she go and work and bring whatever they eat and leave, she bring it home to us. It was so hard. It was so hard. I know people, they think it's hard for me to do, but we used to dig worms and put them on a line and go to the ponds and catch frogs. And they have a long tongue, and you have to hide and don't let them see you. And we used to duck down and throw our line over there, and the frog would jump a fatty with that long tongue, and we hooked them the frog, knocked them frogs in the head with something, and cut his long mouth off and his toes off, and we'd eat the rest of it. Skin it, we'd eat it. You wouldn't believe it.
Yes, I would.
You wouldn't believe it. Thank you, dear. You wouldn't believe it, but we was glad to get it. We was glad to get anything we could get because I couldn't get no job.
But you had pride. You said that in spite of all of this, you refused to give up your pride.
Refused because, see, if I didn't have pride, like I said, the men of color, we didn't have no security. You couldn't tell, you didn't have nobody to tell if the white man done something to you.
You couldn't holler race.
You couldn't holler
You
nothing.
couldn't call the sheriff.
You didn't have nobody to tell. And our mother, she couldn't help herself, so it wasn't nobody to tell. They were all in the same thing. You didn't have, like I said, it was no security. It was no security. It wasn't nobody to tell. It was nobody to stand up for you.
Okay. So you were alone in this hustle place called Alabama.
Yes.
Had to fend for yourself.
Yes, I did.
The only thing that saved you was you refused to give up your pride.
I refused. I don't know where I got it from, but I had it. And I didn't give up. And I was glad to leave Alabama. My mother didn't want me to leave, and not those days when your parents tell you something, you need to obey. When something happened to you.
Wait a minute. Now, back in those days, under our mother and our father, we really believed that. And if you didn't do that, you believe that something's going to happen to you.
Yes. Yeah, they put their mouth on you. And I told my mother, I said, I don't want to go, but I'm going to have to leave him. And my mother said, I don't want you to go. And I was hard-headed, and I paid for it, too.
What do you mean by that? How did you pay for it?
I paid for it up here.
What you got out of Alabama and you came to Florida. How did you pay for it? I mean, you were leaving Alabama, coming to beautiful Florida,
Yeah.
but you were still colored.
I was still colored. It wasn't a white man done that. A man of color done this. I came to get married, and he lied to me. He made me think that he was ready to put down all this stuff and get married and get a wife. And he lied to me. And when I found out he lied to me, I wouldn't give over to him. And he hit me. He hit me in my mouth. Blood was just running out. And a lady come next door and said, "Honey, what's the matter?" I said, he hit me. And she said, "Oh, I ain't got nothing to do with that."
You didn't call the police?
Mr. Fair, we didn't have a telephone.
Oh,
We didn't have no telephone. And the police wouldn't do nothing. Wait, like I said, we didn't have no security. You don't know who you was calling.
so women of color back in those days had no recourse but to take it,
Right.
live with it. Couldn't tell anybody about it.
Nobody to tell anybody like women doing now. I'm hearing it for the first time. Women suffered back there. Really. That's why sometimes you see light, white colored people, they mix.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't help themselves.
Okay. So it
Yes,
wasn't
sir.
all about segregation, it's about integration in the bedroom.
Right. A lot of they took advantage of them.
But nobody could say anything about it because it was
Nobody.
expected
Nobody to stand up for you.
at all. But through it all,
Through it all,
came home to Florida.
through it all, through it all, I'm here in one piece. And I can talk because of many of my friends I knew suffered and are gone. In Alabama, I know a young girl, a young lady. She was liking this man, and she got in the boat with him, and I was standing on the shore. I wouldn't get in there. I don't know. I didn't get in there. It was just him and her, and she was so anxious to get to him. She got in the boat, and the waves started sweeping them out, and as far as I could see her, she was hollering help. Help. It's just a little small boat. She was hollering help, and I wonder sometime now, does that family, did they ever have a way of knowing where that young girl went? Because I know with the waves sweeping over, every time the waves sweep over the boat up, and they couldn't control it. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime, but I said, through it all, God has brought me through it. Like I said, we didn't have electric lights. We didn't have water. We had to pump. We had to take irons and put a fire in the stove and heat the iron by the stove and iron till the iron get cool and put it back and heat it again. We had to do that, And we had to chop wood and heat and put in heaters to heat, And I really said that it was a little bit of heaven to me when I came to Miami. It's a little bit of heaven on earth. I tell you, I must have been happy. I never went back. I had a good mother down there. I love my mother to death, but I refused to go back to Alabama. I left my family down there, and now since I been in Miami, I've met some of my brother's children. I had a brother go to the army. I didn't know where he was, and he had the young men. I just met him. they was my brother's children. We were scattered, you know. We all just scattered. Because my mother was real sick. She died and couldn't help herself and worked herself to death. So
You had to grow up fast.
they had to get out the way.
You had to grow up fast. Yeah.
We had to get out the way, but there was some hard times down there. I came in some hard times. And I was a baby girl. And my sister stayed on there. And she married. And she stayed there and took care of my mother. But it was some hard times in Alabama. Jim Crow. And Abraham, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Set us free.
Didn't you do it?
1865.
Didn't you do
Yes,
it?
he did.
Didn't you do it? I remember quite well when he did it, 1776. Yeah. I remember. But it didn't lighten up the burden of how sometimes they was treating us. Just like down here, we are pushed and shoved and belittled, you know, and we don't have a lot of things we could have or should have. We don't have them, say down here. But Jim Crow is listed a little bit, but it's still down here. In certain places you go, you still find it, you know. You see how they're killing us and not giving us a chance.
But you've proven that in spite of those circumstances, it's not what happens, it's what you do.
It's what you do.
It's what you do. You have just sat here
Yes.
and said to me that you grew up in Alabama
Yes.
at a time that most of us can't even imagine,
Right.
under circumstances that sound unbelievable. Yet, 100 years later, we celebrating your birthday.
Yes. Yes.
So the message
Yes.
to me is, it ain't what happens to you, it's what you do when it happens to you. And had you given in,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
Had you decided that there was no way out, you wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
So you
Right.
don't control all of the circumstances in life,
Yeah.
but you can control how you react to the circumstances.
Absolutely.
That you have proven
Yes.
that there is nothing insurmountable.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing insurmountable.
Nothing.
You talked to me about, in spite of those circumstances, there was something called pride.
Yes.
That they could take away everything, but not your pride. You're not giving that up.
Pride. Not my pride.
So the question, once again, is in 2022, where's our pride?
Oh yeah.
If we had our pride today like you had pride yesterday,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, what a different day it would be
What a
tomorrow.
different day.
We also talked about the willingness to persevere.
Oh.
That there are things in this life, this side of heaven, that you don't control.
Right.
So the challenge is to get through them,
Yeah.
for tomorrow is a better day.
Tomorrow's a better day.
Had you given up,
Yes.
given in,
Giving in.
then we would not be celebrating 100 years later.
You better say it again.
Huh? That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, sir.
That it ain't circumstances.
Yes,
It's
sir.
what you do in spite of the circumstances.
Right.
That you don't control the circumstances,
No, you don't.
but you do control how you react to the
You do.
circumstances.
You do.
And you're living evidence
Yes, I am.
that in spite of,
Yes,
there is a way.
that's a way. It took my little education and come on through.
Education
Yes.
was education. You just said to me that you go to school
Yeah.
at 13.
Yes.
What about the first grade?
Yes.
What about the second grade?
Yes.
What about the third grade?
Well, I'll be honest with you. My mother said she had 9 children, and I don't know if they died from whatever. You know, I only know 3 children was home that
Out of
I
9.
met. 3.
Okay.
I guess the rest of them were dead. I didn't know them. I didn't see them.
Wouldn't be surprising to have 9 children back in those days
Right,
when the medical facilities were
right.
racist and denied colored people, when there was no insurance, when there were no
No
doctors to
insurance.
treat you, that when you got pregnant, you just
Right.
waited for the midwife, someone else to come to help you
Did
deliver the baby.
right. That's what it was.
Okay.
And I heard of Mr. Fair. My mother had diabetes, and I was sitting in the doctor's office. I could hear him chopping her leg off. I cried a many days.
Chopping.
Chopping her leg off. Chopping her leg off. And she was hollering and screaming. And he was chopping her leg off because they didn't have facilities like they have now. And she had diabetes. So he took her leg off,
Chopped it off.
chopped it off,
Chopped it off.
chopped it off. I learned how to say chop, and I know how to spell it.
And we can imagine how it felt.
Oh, she was screaming.
We
She
can
was
imagine.
screaming. I was in there crying. We didn't have, I don't know, it seemed like we was in a place where, like you forgot about, you know? It was like you was forgotten about because we didn't have alternatives to look out for us. And you call the police, what he's gonna do? He didn't do nothing.
No colored hospital. No Jackson Memorial.
No, sir.
No
sir.
colored ward at the White Hospital.
No.
So you were just there.
You was on your own.
On your own.
On your own. I don't know how. I guess God made a way for me to get out of that. And it was in the name of getting married. But I didn't marry and I didn't check. No, pride.
Pride. We keep coming
Oh.
back to that thing called pride. Principles that in
Get me
spite
out
of
of
the
there and live
circumstances.
with me. We're gonna live. A lot of men live with me. My aunt taught us to have pride for yourself. Let a man carry you to the altar if he loves you. Stay out the bed. My aunt taught me that. And I listened at her until I was 18 before I could touch it. I was raped then, but I was scared to tell my aunt because she'd go down in the woods and get not a switch, a young tree, and beat. I knew that. I was scared to tell her. I never told her.
So in spite of those circumstances, it sounds like a horror story that still was in your family lineage. Pride and principles.
Yes,
There's certain things, in spite of,
I wouldn't do.
I'm not going to do.
I wouldn't do. Now I did out there now after I got married, and we separated out. And I ain't gonna sit up here and act like I was all a bag of chips and all of that.
You were not.
No.
You mean to tell me that in those 100 years, there's some things that
Yeah,
really
yeah.
you heard it on We Ride
I ain't
podcast?
heard it. I found it out. I didn't hear it. I found it out. But it was hard. I mean, I found out that, sin have challenges. But I asked myself, how can I keep doing this? I ain't getting nowhere. Because if I really had used common sense, they had alternatives here. You could go finish your education, and be somebody. But I stayed on my knees, spreading flows. But I come up here down and I end up doing it because the doctor I met was so good to me. And I just stayed spreading flows. So now he dead, and he acquainted me with Gen Medical. He said he paid my insurance and all those things. He took care of me. You know?
Is that the one who used to give you a car?
Huh?
Is that the one who used to give you a car every year?
Yeah, he bought me. I think he bought me about 8 or 9 cars, and I used to use them to go pick up people to church. He was a good man. I hope he made it. He was good, but he just liked to went a different way. And I was scared. I didn't want to say anything to him because I felt like I cut off my, you know, his goodness. He'd get rid of me, and I wouldn't have no job because I didn't have much of an education. And I didn't tell him, but one day I was in Publix, and he was in there in the aisle, and I happened to meet him in the aisle, and I said, ain't no better time than now. You know, I told him.
What did you tell him?
You don't want to hear. You don't want to hear.
But I thought he was a good man. He gave you a car.
He was good. He was good. He was good in my sight.
Okay.
But he did what he wanted to do, and he got married to me. He got married. Sure did. He said, "What you want me to do?" I said, "It ain't what I want you to do. It's what you want to do." He said, "Well, I ain't doing this and I ain't doing." I said, "That's your business."
So you come to Florida now, you talking back to white folks. Where you get that courage from?
Well, somehow or another, I got a job with she wasn't Chinese, but her husband was Chinese. He owned a singer lot over town. It's tore down now.
Okay.
He was the owner of it, Mr. Aim, you know,
Okay.
and his wife. And she gave me a job, and I went there cleaning and going on for her. And she was so nice to me. I stayed with her till she died. She was real nice to me. And that's how I got entangled with working, you know, for white people. She used to tell me how nice I look and how nice I was. And she said, Juanita always tell somebody something beautiful about them. And I like that from her. That's a good day.
So over 100 years ago, under unbelievable circumstances, 13 children there found, mother who died early. Didn't get to go to school until we were 13 years of age. Never had 3 meals in one day.
No.
The food that you had was sought out from wherever you could get it from. So you didn't know what you were going to eat from day to day
Right.
at all. You mentioned to me that you went to school when somebody else had already gone to school. So you didn't start in the first grade. You started for the first time when you were 13 years of age.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
Grew up then uneducated, without a job, in a hostile environment where white men had their way with all women,
Yes.
white and black women.
Yes.
That you had to do what you were told to do when you were told to do it, and if you didn't do it when you were told to do it, what you were told to do, then you belonged to them.
That's right. That's right.
There was no way out in this place called Alabama.
They'll go down and take you out. Nobody could sell wood.
Nobody could sell wood.
Nobody could sell wood.
But through it all, you maintained your pride and dignity.
Yes.
Through it all, you refused to give in to the circumstances.
Yeah.
Through it all, you left Alabama
Yes.
and came to Florida.
Yes.
Circumstances were the same, but in your eyesight, much better.
Much better in my sight. After I got here, well, I began to see things change, but I survived. I survived.
Why did you survive? And so many of us today got so much more stuff than you ever even thought about having and can't survive.
Mr. Fair, I think about that. I think about I had this job, and I know I didn't have nothing to go home to. I know I didn't have another job, but you know what? I stood when that happened. I quit. I told a lie to get away, and I didn't go back.
When what happened?
When the white man came and he uh, offered himself up to me, I told one lie to get away, and I ain't go back.
So you couldn't report that a white man
I
tried
couldn't
to rape
report
you?
it. No,
So you had to tell a lie to get away.
tell a lie to get away. Tell a lie. Get away. And I didn't go back. I was scared to stay in the house. I was scared he'd come find me. But God protected me because I stand up for him. And I stand up for what I know. I didn't want it. And even here in Miami, you know, I don't want no, you know, I'm so segregated. I love white people, but I don't know that. I don't know. I don't want a white husband. He's a human being like me, but it's so much of that in me that I looked up to him, you know, but I didn't give over to him. Never had to give over to him. But I feel like everybody should get what they want. That's the choice. You come here with a choice. And a human being is a human being. We are no better than them, and they are no better than us. But they just have advantages and circumstances, and they get better taken care of than us. Just like I heard one man say, you look at the news, and you see thousands of people coming in, and you say, "Oh Lord, I'm already ain't getting the best, and here they coming in, and it's gonna cut this and cut this and cut that." And right now, you know, I get a small amount of what you call it, food stamps.
Okay.
Yeah, and you talk to other people, some of them getting more, you know. But I said, well, Lord, you brought me thus far, I can't complain. I just thank God, keep going. And you see them coming, ain't done nothing over here. Ain't worked, ain't done nothing. And they come over here and take advantage, close the streets down, sit in the streets and stop traffic. You know, and I look at why we can't do that.
That's a good question, because when you were born in 1922, one of the major issues in 1922 was immigration.
Yes.
One of the major issues in 1922 was the migration from Alabama to New York, to DC, and other places.
Yeah.
So you have been part of this migratory transition all of your life. The question then becomes, you didn't give in. But today's colored people,
Yeah.
give in.
Give in. Give in.
You have said that in spite of those circumstances,
Yeah.
I refuse to give up my dignity.
Right. I'm
In spite of
somebody.
those, I am somebody.
I am somebody.
You said that against all of these odds,
Yes.
you had the unmitigated gall
Yes.
to stand up,
Yes.
say, you're going to respect me. I'm not
Yes.
going to speak with you because you're a white man. You're going to respect me.
Right. Right.
You have said loud and clear for the last 100 years
Yeah.
that I am human.
I'm not a dog.
I am a woman. I'm not a dog.
Oh. No. I'm not gonna lower myself. I'm somebody.
Ooh, my goodness.
I'm somebody.
Yes, yes.
And I respect myself. You know. And I'm not saying it to say that I am this and that of a bag of chips. But
You are this and that. No, you are this and that and a bag of chips 2 times, 4 times. See,
thank you.
Clearly, no. I mean, once again,
Yeah.
we're not going to apologize for what you have been able to accomplish in spite of the circumstances that you have described to us here this evening.
Yeah.
We're not going to take a back seat on pride.
No.
We're not going to take a back seat on making people respect us.
No.
We're not going to take a back seat on becoming dependent on the system. You have proven that against all odds, 100 years
100
this side of heaven.
I've done some good.
Ain't no doubt about it. It is the good that you have done with sins to the world. That it ain't the circumstances. It's what you do with the circumstances that you find you in. That you don't control those things. But you do control this thing.
This. Absolutely.
And you do control that. So they can call you nigga. Whatever.
It don't matter.
It don't make you work.
I know I ain't now.
Okay. They can try to rape you. It don't matter.
It don't matter.
You can't do it without my permission.
Right.
You can make me scrub floors.
Right.
It don't matter.
Right.
It don't matter.
It don't matter.
I would not give up who I am.
That's right.
I would not sacrifice my worth.
Absolutely.
I am a woman.
I am a woman, and I'm going to stand up as a woman. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Praise the Lord.
Right.
So tell me about this Jesus that you talk about all the time, this God that you talk about all the time. When did he come into your life?
Who?
God.
Oh, he come in my life more when I hit the mouth. He come in my mouth more than because I needed somebody.
Okay.
And I needed an anchor. You know?
You didn't need a welfare check?
I didn't have
You need a man?
Man had to feed me.
Okay.
I didn't need him.
Okay.
I needed somebody that could help me, that had been helping me at the time when I didn't look up to them.
Oh, so when you look back, it's how I got over.
Yes.
It came to you that in spite of those circumstances.
Yes, it came to me.
Something else had to be in charge.
Something else had to be in charge.
That these 100 years is not due just to your goodness.
Yes.
But his goodness.
His goodness. And Mr. Fair, through it all, I can sit here and say I've never been in jail, never been in no kind of problem where called you to break the law. I walk with the Lord. I'm not saying I ain't walked all the way, but God has.
Little backsliding every
That's
now
all right. God loves us.
Without a doubt.
He loves us.
Without a doubt.
He loves us when we out there shaking us and going on and don't even think about that cruel death he did on the cross.
He's God.
He still loves
We're
us.
human.
He's God.
So we're not perfect.
We're sinners.
We're sinners.
We're sinners. And you know what? We are still in a sinful body. And that's why we are give over a lot of times. That's why God said you got to be born again. This is a sinful body you in, and all it's calling for is sinful stuff that you got in you. You come here, sinner, and you got to get rid of all that stuff. And people don't realize, Mr. Fair, you got to sacrifice to get what things you love.
What makes sacrifice?
Sacrifice.
To give up stuff that you love.
You love. Not lack, but love. You got to give it up for somebody who went all the way to the cross for you. If it hadn't been nobody but you, he still would have went. He went and died such a cruel death on the cross. If it hadn't been for one person, he still would have died. And what do we own? You know? And, like the race, it kind of separate black and white. I look at it and I say, Lord, the day. And then I read in the Bible where the Lord said, let not your hearts be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my house is many mantles, and that's what I got my eyes on. And I know ain't nothing down here for me. Nothing. It's gonna pass away. But he said, in my house are many mantles. He said, if it was not so, I would have told you. He said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. God said that. Now, I know God can't lie because he gave us his life for us. So, I mean, though the current may hit you and knock you from one side to another, though the waves may come over you, God ain't gonna let them cover you. But you go through some stuff in this world. But you know what? God got a better place for us if we only accept it. If we only accept it. All we asking for now is fairness. And we asking, I'm a human being like you. Why can't, if you can drink a cup of milk, why can't I drink a cup of milk? That's all we're asking for. We are human beings like you are. Then why are we so down under you? We all got one blood. We all are one. So why we are looked down upon so bad? We are human beings. We ain't dogs and cows and animals. We are human beings. We nursed those white women's children. We fed them. We sometimes stayed up all night with them. And those midwives, we did it. Our parents did that, and they suffered for that. And so we are the generation of those that's gone on. We are the generation. And it looked like, just like the Spirit told me the other day, Mr. Fair, when those people got together and was building a stairway, they was trying to get to heaven. And you know why they was trying to get to heaven? They was trying to get rid of God. They didn't want God in their life. They want to rule. Like people want to rule now, And you know what? The same thing the Spirit told me is going on right now. When they shooting them things up to the moon, they going up there talking about buying land up there. You understand? The same thing is happening. So people should realize that Jesus is going to put an end to all of this. He is. And he ain't going to let man rule. He ain't going to let man rule like the Russians. They want to rule. God going to stop them when he get ready. You believe it?
I believe everything that you've told me since I have met you. The challenge for us here at the Urban Lake is to make the non-believers believe.
Right.
You are living proof that once again, it's about you, not about them.
Right.
You have demonstrated that you can come from the worst of circumstances.
Right. Right.
But in spite of those circumstances, you can't survive.
You can survive.
You've been abused. You've been misused. But in spite of that, you're 100 years old.
Yes.
You scrubbed floors.
Yes.
You eaten other people's food that was left over.
Yeah.
You even witnessed an operation without any anesthesia. And you carry those screams around with you every day. Yet we celebrate 100 years of your life this side of heaven. And you have demonstrated, as far as I'm concerned, that it's what you do, not what they don't do.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
demonstrate beyond my concern
Yes.
that as long as you believe that there's a God, everything's going to be all right.
Everything.
That you don't control man,
Yeah.
you do control how you're going to react to man.
Right.
That he can try to make you something that he wants you to be, but you don't have to be.
Yes.
You can call me names, you can treat me differently,
Right.
but I've got something called God, where I get my inner peace from, my inner strength from.
Yes.
And that in spite of the circumstances,
Yes.
that if I hold on to him,
Yes.
everything will be all right. It may not be
Everything.
when I want it,
Yeah. But it's
but in
gonna
due
come.
time, it's going
It's
to come.
gonna come. The
May
reward.
not be on this side of heaven,
Yes.
but there's another place
Yes.
greater than this place that we find ourselves.
Absolutely.
So the challenge for us is that if you want to live 100 years,
Yeah.
like Mother Chambers, then what you got to do is be like Mother Chambers.
Thank you.
And you got to recognize that you don't have to give in to your circumstances.
Right.
That what they call you, you only become it when you behave like what they call you.
And only if you accept it, you can read it, but you don't have to accept
You don't have to accept it.
it. You know, and
You can live it, but you don't have to accept it.
you don't have to
But you
accept it.
control the things that you control in spite of the circumstances in which you find yourself. That's clear to me in your life.
Thank you.
That in 1922, when we're coming into what is called the Industrial Revolution, the urbanization, quote unquote, immigration problems, corruption, the women's movement for the first time in the 20s,
Yeah.
you were born in some difficult times,
Sure was.
in the most difficult place called Alabama. If they thought George Wallace standing in the door was something,
Yeah.
they ain't heard your story yet. They ain't heard your story yet.
I shall tell it.
They ain't heard your story.
Oh yeah, I'll tell it, Mr. God have brought me through a lot of storms. It ain't been easy, but I walked.
It ain't supposed to be easy. You ain't God. You're human.
Yeah.
If you're not in the Garden of Eden, you're in Alabama.
He didn't promise us a rose garden.
None whatsoever.
He didn't promise us it wouldn't be easy.
Ain't supposed to be.
No, he didn't.
Ain't supposed to be.
No, he didn't.
Adam messed that up.
Yeah.
It would have been easy if he'd have followed what he was told to do.
Right.
But when he got cast out of the Garden of Eden, then that changed the whole game
The
plan
whole thing.
for all of us human beings.
All
Homo
of
sapiens.
us. One man.
One man.
One man.
One man.
Yeah.
One man.
And we can't say if I would have done this, you don't know what you would have done. You don't
But
know.
we do know, as we look back over your life,
Yeah.
that it's about the choices that you make,
Yes.
in spite of the circumstances that you find yourself in.
Yes.
That folks may not like you, but you got to always like yourself.
And don't give in.
And don't give in.
That's right.
And when you give in,
That's right.
you give out.
Right.
When you give in and give out, you give up.
You give up.
When you give in,
So
give out, give up,
Give up.
there is no future.
That's right.
So it's been great.
Yes.
100 years.
Thank you. I feel
Thank you
wonderful.
very much for having a year. And here's my present to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to pay your rent for the rest of your life. Happy birthday.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it on podcast. I'm paying your rent for the rest of your life.
Wow, Mr. Fair.
I don't want you on food stamps. I don't want you ever to have to eat anything.
Well, you
except
know
what
what,
I'm paying your rent for the rest of your life.
Mr.
I'll take the
Fair.
car away from you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chambers. Good to have you and enjoy the show.
Mr. Fair, what I offer is free.
Good. And what I'm offering is also free. It's been great. Hope you
Thank
enjoyed the
you.
conversation.
Thank
100
you.
years.
Thank
100
you.
years.
I
See, the conversation that doesn't want to be validated is, we fought for centuries to be accepted in a land that never valued us, but allowed us. You used our gifts and talents and made a mockery of us, but never developed us. Community unity was labeled as terrorist schools, successfully infiltrated and ultimately dismantled by COINTELPRO. As a people, we endured abuse, sexual assault. We were taken away from our families, we were lynched, and most importantly, stripped away from our spirituality. We were given an identity and a name that didn't represent who we were. Through all the years of trauma, we still rise. We push through the educational barriers that was not afforded to us. See, they don't understand there's no stopping our progress. Despite we got to keep going. Through the police brutality, through the broken system that incarcerated people of color at a higher rate than any other race. We got to keep going. My kings and queens, look at us. They can't stop our progress.
We've been tested and rested and stamped off for most of our life. Been beaten, mistreated, and murdered, unjustified. Black men, keep going.
Keep going, keep growing. Resilient man, keep showing up. Your presence is the potion. Your focus is the target. Magic man, keep sowing seeds into your future. Don't bargain with the beggars brought in. Make them binge watch your growth from the sideline. Big energy, keep choosing to be chosen. Keep the gift, take it off safety. Wave it in their faces, keep elevating. Without permission, keep being the promises of our ancestors and the dreams of our children. Keep defying odds, keep going hard. Keep believing God, keep breathing through the fall. Don't
I know that no
stop.
one can bring back all of the tears you cried. Just know that you've got the power to take back what's deep inside.
Black woman, keep glowing, keep pouring, keep watering these lands with the drip of your melanin. Keep demanding your appreciation. Keep it at a distance from those who waste it. Keep your worth up. Keep birthing love and other multiplying things. Keep that dust off of your beautiful wings. Follow that which seems to you in bold true. Keep your lens locked on the light. Reach for it with your whole life. Submit to what you know is right. Don't think twice. No second guessing. You are the blessing. You are the message.